All right, let's get into our first topic then. And is the Union flag a turn-off? 0207 862 2222. Get your calls in for this one now. There's been a row in a small Norfolk village of Claxton after villagers tried to stop a new flagpole being erected outside of the village hall to fly the national flag. Now, some said that it would put off people living there, and others said that it had a negative connotation, including being used as a symbol against immigration. But what do you think? Is the Union flag still a patriotic symbol, or has it changed? Marina, you think it's been hijacked by certain political groups?
Yeah, and I think it's a shame, because I think a country's flag actually should be used as a symbol for unity, which indeed it was and has been. But I think since things like, for example, the Conservatives, who love to have their flags behind them in every broadcaster camera...
But isn't that patriotic for politicians to be using it in that way?
I think fine, but I think what we saw with the last Conservative Party, as they led more to the right, is it's basically become now this symbol against something. So if you look at how the nationalists use it, and the EDL and whoever else, and these people that we saw rioting, for example, or even in the lead up to Brexit, it's no longer a symbol of unity. I think it's now become a symbol of discord. It's about what you're against. You're against the EU, you're against immigration, you're against foreigners. It doesn't, sadly, I don't think it symbolises something that, you know, we're all for, we're all in this together. And that's why I think some people might see it as divisive, which is a shame.
James, what do you think?
I think it's because of those views that it isn't being used in the way it should be. And I think if you don't use the flag in the way that it should be by, you know, on public buildings or by political parties, and you talk about the Conservatives, but it was Labour who used it in their campaign in the most recent election, and so they should, by the way. I think all political parties, mainstream political parties, should be very happy to have our flag, to use it, to represent that it is not going to be taken over by these minorities. Because as soon as you kowtow to that, and as soon as you take decisions saying, oh, well, we won't fly it just because some people might think it's being nationalistic or it's being divisive or whatever, then it means that you are allowing those people to claim the flag.
I agree, by the way. I'm not saying this parish hall, I actually think they're well within their rights to fly it. But I think with the discussion here, the question here is, has it been hijacked? And what does it mean? Will some people find it divisive? Yes, they will as a result. So, yes, you are right, James. There are probably steps now to be taken to try and sanitise this flag again.
But, I wonder but the more we use it, and the more that it is flown outside village halls or houses or wherever it is, then the less it is able to be taken over by the people that would like it to be.
Marina, do you think there is a distinct difference between somebody flying it or a village flying it outside of their hall and an individual deciding to put it outside of their house?
Yeah, I do. And I think back to when I was...
What are you saying? When you fly it outside of your house, what do you think somebody is trying to tell you?
This is exactly it. And I think when you fly outside of your house, you're making a statement. And I don't think most people who are proud to be British are just happily proud to be British. You don't have to, like, symbolise it by having a flag outside your house. If you want to, go for it. But for me, there's a thing where when I was younger and my mum and dad are Italian, I was very, like, you know, pro being Italian. I was like, yeah, I support the Italian football team, whatever. As I grew older and, you know, you develop much more of a sense of identity of who you are, your network, your friends, your family, your reliance on your nationality and that sort of patriotism, I think, reduces. And so, I don't know, I feel like for some people, they're really heavily reliant on this as their identity, and that's a bit strange, I think.
I don't think it's strange, but I think people, you know, are proud to have it. And I think having grown up in the 70s when, frankly, it was hijacked to a far greater extent than it has been more recently. And
yeah, but in a positive way. Britpop, Call Britannia.
No.
Jerry Halliwell,
I wasn't growing up then. I was growing up in the 70s.
90s, yeah. We're talking 90s rather than
70s. But that whole Britpop thing and the whole response to it and the whole using it for the GB team and all that sort of thing was a response to the fact that in the 70s it had been hijacked and had totally become, you know, flag non grata, if you like, anywhere. And so it had been reclaimed, and I think this recent resurgence in discussion about whether it has been, I think we have to go through the same thing again, which is, by all means, if you want to fly it outside your house, fly it outside your house. If you want to have it on your car, have it on your car. If you want to have it, you know, wear it on kit and whatever. Can I ask you a
question, though? If you saw it hanging outside someone's house or on their car...
I see it regularly.
Do you think that's a statement? OK, because I see that, and I guess my immediate reaction is that person's going to be anti-something.
Because and what are they anti?
I think they're going to be anti-EU, anti-foreigners, anti-immigration. I think something's happened to this flag where it now means pro-British to the extent that you are anti-something else.
See, the people who I know who fly their flag, none of them do it because of that reason. And also the other thing, where there's a huge amount of flag discussion every year, the Royal Albert Hall, of which I'm a trustee, you know, it comes last night the proms arrives and there's this huge discussion about flags, and then people stand outside with their EU flags and handing them to everybody because they want to cause some and you know, all this sort of thing, and people, you know, some people will say, oh, it's terrible that there's flag waving, and I think it's great. I think, you know, if people are, you know, if you want to reclaim your flag, if you go to any other country and any citizen, either those who are born there or those who are naturalised there or those who live there, they will feel happy and proud to fly that flag. We should be those people in this country.
I've got a question for you in a minute, but what do you think about the flag? 0207 862 2222. I suppose what we're asking is, if you went into a village as a potential buyer of a property and you saw a Union Jack or a Union flag flying, would it put you off purchasing a property there? Because that's essentially what some of these villages are suggesting might be the case. When you look at the Union flag, what do you think that represents? Do you see the monarchy? Do you see the Great British Empire? Do you see a modern Britain? What do you see when you look at it, James?
I do see the monarchy. I think the monarchy is part of it. I do take great pride in it. I think it's a fantastic flag, just as flags go. I think it's a rather, you know, striking flag.
I actually, if you were going to look at it very objectively, have to say it is very beautiful.
It's a
red,
good
white
flag,
and blue.
and I do love
smart.
it. If you go to central London, and when those flags are up along the Mall, or when they're along Whitehall and all those buildings, and it's sort of flying and it's doing its thing, and I think when we have those sort of moments of national celebration,
Team GB waving their flag very proudly means very different to them.
Context is very important, because they're absolutely, it's like wonderful. You're proud when you see these Olympians carrying the GB flag, but actually it's when, I mean, we just saw a week of violence where that flag was paraded about, and I think that's the reason it's got that ill feeling.
I just wonder whether now, because in the 70s perhaps it was the Union flag, I see an awful lot of the George's Cross now. I don't know whether that's the flag now that is being taken over by certain...
I think that's always been the flag that, frankly, has been more problematic. And I think that's...
The George's flag?
Well, it has been more problematic because that's the one that's been used and associated with quite a lot of football violence, with quite a lot of, you know, loutish behaviour and all those sorts of things. But I think with any flag, if you want to make sure that it doesn't become that symbol, instead of shying away from it, saying, oh, it might be this, it might be that, these people think this, these people think that. No, take it, use it, wear it, have it, fly it. Because then that weakens their cause, because then those people don't know whether or not you stand for them. If you shy away from it and it becomes, you know, a non-used item, you're giving in.
OK, let's go to the calls. Bill from Essex, what do you see when you see the Union flag?
Well, what I'd like to see is the flag flown much more frequently.
Where?
On more buildings.
OK.
Yeah, and I think that by doing that, we would reclaim the flag as our national flag, because we're British. Whoever you are, you live here, you're British, it's our flag.
But Bill, what do you see when you see the flag? Do you think of the monarchy? Do you think of the British Empire? Do you think, because that for some now is quite a shameful period of time, and so I just wonder what you see when you look at it.
Well, I do get what you're asking, but I see the United Kingdom. Okay. That's what I see. Yes, we've got history, some of which I look at and I think, oh, crumbs, you know, that's not good. But we are the United Kingdom. Let's be happy that we're the United Kingdom and show our flag.
And be proud of it. Would you be? You would be happier, Marina, actually, if the flag was flown in more public buildings. If there was a sort of reclaiming of the flag back to what it should be about, and that is unifying a United Kingdom.
It doesn't massively bother me. It was like Gordon Brown back in 2007 wanted to reinvigorate the flag and have it flown actually on more public buildings. I haven't got a problem with that. I just think right now, to start doing that right now after a week of violence, I would just say if I were an ethnic minority,
it's interesting because
I might feel a bit threatened.
So there's a St George's flag. We just seen the Union flag. You can see it there in the distance as well. So there's a bit of both flags going on there. Now, OK, so when we see the Union flag in that context, very different from Team GB flying their flags in the earlier clip that we've seen. But we've had that happened at the same time. At the same time we had the Olympics going on, we had the riots going on as well. And yet in your mind now, when you see the Union Jack, after a week of wall-to-wall Olympic coverage, you see riots. But presumably, James, you see the pride of Britain and all those athletes going out and
yeah, I mean, look,
fighting for our...
I'm not blind to the people who deface the flag and deface the nation and behave in a thuggish, sort of brutal way. But what I'm not prepared to do is to just roll over and say, OK, well, it's been hijacked, so we mustn't use it. And to see the wrong things from it, as far as I'm concerned, you know, that's the flag that I've always grown up in with, you know, as part of our nation symbol. Yes, it's complicated in terms of local flags and national flags and the United Kingdom and all these discussions about, you know, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland and everything else that you want to have. And, you know, the EU piece thrown in as well. It is complicated, but on the other hand, I think it's important for us to have an understanding, even if just to say, well, what does the flag symbolise and why is it important? I
do wonder whether that's part of why we do think of it as more of a divisive flag, or people do. I remember Ollie Alexander referring to it as when he was performing for the Eurovision. Thank you very much. And that caused quite controversy that he referred to it as divisive. But I do wonder whether it is to do with our United Kingdom and certain parts of our United Kingdom wanting to be devolved and independent. Fiona from Dundee, you've called just at the perfect time. As a Scot, what do you think when you see the Union Jack?
Well, James has said a lot of what I was thinking. What I object to is the individual countries using the Union Jack when the activity that they're participating in is solely concerned with that country. And often, it sounds anti-English, but what I mean is the English and other countries use the Union Jack as their flag when they do have their own individual flags contained within it. Different at the games.
Yes.
It's a national thing where everybody's participating. That is entirely different.
So are you talking about if, for example, when England gets into the Euros, they start flying a Union Jack or a Union flag as opposed to the St George's Cross?
They should use their English flag if the English get
but the fact that they don't tells you that they don't see the Union flag as the Union as a whole and they see it as the English flag.
That's right, yes.
I wonder whether that's a perspective from some of the home nations, but also whether if you are of the thinking that you would like your home nation to be independent, whether the Union Jack is quite an offensive flag.
Well, I suppose offensive is probably the wrong word, but I think it's a more complicated flag because of our history, and it's a more complicated flag as to when perhaps it should be used. And it's more complicated because if, for example, you are not a monarchist, and if you are a Republican, then I can see that if it's always associated with monarchy, then that may be problematic for you. So I think there are lots of reasons why people might find it problematic, but I think that if we had a better understanding of our history, a better understanding of our great nations together, and when they're together and what they do, and that's partly because I think we've become a little bit frightened about talking about history, and we've also have to, I don't know, criticise ourselves for everything that we've ever done, or indeed everything that people have done in the past, which may not necessarily be in our name. I mean, certainly when a lot of empire and various other things are happening, well, my lot were over in Eastern Europe, so it's got nothing to do with me. And yet people seem to have a problem if I think that is the emblem of the great nations as one.
Well, we'll get lots of people calling up as well saying that, nations across the world all have problematic histories and they've all done their own, maybe not their own versions of perhaps what we have done, but their own sort of things they're feeling quite ashamed of, and yet they seem to get over it and still unite behind one flag.
They do, but do you not think it's weird in this country that, for example, our honours, we still have like OBE, MBE, Orders of the British Empire? That needs to be done away with. I don't believe other countries that colonised still give out awards in honour of their colonies.
That is a debate for another day, and a debate that we have fairly regularly. Fiona, what do you think about what James has just said there?
Partly agree and partly not.
That's probably healthy.
You don't want to agree with me too much, Fiona, for God's sake.
What do you disagree with, Fiona?
No, I don't think I should go into all that. I just feel that an awful lot of the countries out with, no, not out with, but apart from England, should use their own flags, and that applies to England as well. If it's solely English, then, or solely Irish, Welsh, Scottish, use your own country's flag. If the whole country is involved, that's absolutely great, because we're all contained on the flag.
Yeah, it's very rare that Scotland would be flying the Union flag if it was just a Scottish thing. And the Wales doing the same.
Yes,
Fiona,
exactly.
Thank you very much for your call. Marjorie from Dorset, you're up next. What do you think about the Union flag?
I'm extremely proud of my flag. I always have been. And I tell you what, the French has taught me a lesson. I think they were wonderfully patriotic, and I think we should be too. We should be proud of our country, proud of our flag, which I am. And I wave it wherever I can.
Do you have one outside your house, Marjorie?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have one outside of your house?
Well, no, I haven't actually. But I do put a flag out on my window.
Okay, well that's technically, so passers-by would be able to see your Union flag. What do you see when you look at it, Marjorie? What does it represent for you? Give me a few describing words.
My flag represents my wonderful country, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And my father, he was always patriotic, and I followed suit. I can't tell how proud I am of my flag. And I can't understand people who, you know, a turn-off. I never heard of such a thing. A turn-off. When I see it, I feel so proud.
What part of our country makes you proud? What is it you're proud of?
I'm proud of what we've achieved. And I feel if ever we go into another country, wherever we go, they say the English have arrived. Or the British have arrived.
See, Marjorie, you did that thing that Fiona was talking about where people are getting confused between the Union Jack being the British flag and some people like yourself referring it to the English flag. Can you see how that might be upsetting to some of the
I do
population
appreciate
of nations?
that.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. In fact, my relations are Scottish, and I think they should raise their own flag. You're quite right.
But this is technically their flag too.
We should all be proud of our own flags.
I think, look, I will say that, Marjorie, I love this country. Like, I absolutely love this country. But this flag has got connections to, like, even the way it was, I think, just really hijacked by the last government, who I think wrecked the country. I don't feel like it's something I want to be waving around at the moment, even though I do love this country.
Oh, no, I think you've overthought it.
No, I don't. If I wave it,
you've overthought it. It's a great flag. It's a great flag. You're finding something to get upset about, and that's it.
I'm not upset. This sort of thing does not upset me or offend me. People, please do feel free to wave your flags. I'm just saying, for me, the pride that I have in this country is not represented by this flag.
Oh, you see, I was very happy to have some great British bunting up at the beach. Oh, lovely. A little bit of fluttering in the wind.
OK, Marjorie, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this. Later.